Okay, first up this week is A Cat and His Human Leagues of Losers, book number 1, written by Michael Atamanoff. It is 354 pages, $3.99. It's available on Kindle Unlimited, and here's the author's description. When our protagonist, Andrei, discovers that his girlfriend has cheated on him, he finds himself with an unexpected choice to make: a quick death or a new life in another world he knows absolutely nothing about. Andrei chooses life and sets off alongside his pet, a ginger cat with a limp, for a primeval world fraught with danger. The trouble is, who is whose pet becomes entirely unclear. The man's consciousness is split between both creatures, and the little cat gets a far greater share of the intelligence and wit than his hulking master. What do you do as a weak little kitty? Abandon the clumsy human who always seems to get into trouble, go and search for a new master, or protect your human body in hopes of one day reuniting to it. So there we go. This is a Russian translation story. And full disclosure, I received advanced copy for review. I purchased a copy when it became available. I should purchase the pre-order, so I already paid for it. This is an interesting mix of genres. From the cover art, the cover actually seems very happy-go-lucky, very anime-esque, and that is not what this is at all, really. So the cover kind of, to me, gives, well, I should say not all. There, I guess, a couple portions that are a little happy-go-lucky, but a lot of the story is a mix of portal fiction, part survival apocalypse, and part real-life RPG. The main character is a human from Rome, gets kicked, who kicked the butt of an arrogant rival when is killed in retribution. Only he gets a chance to go to a new world instead, and among the things he takes with him is the kitten he rescued, which is talked about in the novel description. In this new world, he gets an RPG interface, 10 lives, and a choice of several skills that will affect what class he gets later. He's not alone in this new world, but amongst others who made the same choice he did. Not only that, but they are only the latest arrivals. It turns out this world is full of monsters, magic, and people that want to take what the newcomers have for their own benefit. There are betrayals galore in this apocalypse-like world, and the main character just doesn't know who to trust, except his kitten, who has his own RPG interface, levels, skills, and magic, and will do whatever he can to save his human. Okay, so that's kind of my version of the novel description. And this story, especially in the beginning section, is it's kind of dark. There's betrayals, and there's angst, and there's people taking advantage and enslaving other people, and lots of monsters and experiences that are on the darker side of things. So that to me just doesn't mesh well with this very kind of anime-esque cover. And I like the cover art. It's very pretty and it's very upbeat, but at the same time I'm like, even though like the characters exist in the story exactly as they are described in that cover art, the tone of it is like, oh, this is a much darker story overall compared to it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I like post-apocalyptic books. I like the survival aspects of it, and that is in this story. There's a struggle for resources in this world, and I thought the author did a very interesting job of kind of changing the fundamental dynamics of human society, in that humans tend to do better when they group together and work as a pack or a group, which is what we generally do. We create tribes, we create groups of people of like-mindedness, or people who are going to share the burdens of resources and gatherings and chores and hunting and fishing and, taking care of children, whatever. But in this particular novel, that concept is penalized. It's penalized in a very interesting way, in that as more people gather together, more monsters spawn every night, and more difficult monsters to fight every night. And so there is a very interesting kind of balance act between how much do I want to work with the group for safety and to share resources and to share like RPG skill sets, versus how much do I want to put my life in danger. Even if you have multiple lives, you still have a finite number of them. And so once that last life is taken, you're gone for good. The author uses that concept very interestingly, and I thought I really enjoyed the way that he played with a lot, making very realistic consequences and exploits that people would obviously take advantage of. So it was a very interesting concept there. So that is a good section of the story. It's pretty dark up to like midway, 40%-ish of the novel, and then you get a little more of a portal fantasy tone with the main character Not necessarily have to worry about survival quite so much. Forming a group, learning unique skills, safely exploring around, and that middle section of the story is probably a little lighter. I wouldn't say lighthearted. There's a little humor, I suppose, and that section fits, I guess, the cover a little bit better. But again, it very quickly returns like this darker, harsh, gritty aspect of this, like almost apocalypse survival-esque kind of tone to the story towards like the end of the story again. Overall, I enjoyed the novel. I really did. It's an interesting slice of life story where you're following the main character as he's kind of dropped into this world and figures out not just the rules, not just the RPG rules, but also what the rules are for dealing with people, other species, monsters. His kitten actually has a secondary side points perspective, which is described in the novel description, so it's not a spoiler, but it was interesting to see there are two different perspectives on how that personality kind of affects their dynamics. So interesting story. It gets a score 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's definitely a good recommend. Interesting. Again, a lot of Russian stuff does do fun and interesting stuff, and this is no different. So, A Cat and His Human League of Losers, book number 1, with a score of 7.5 out of 10.